Hello and welcome back to the Formula 1 chat. Today we will be discussing the Jeddah Grand Prix, the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. 2 races down in the Formula 1 season so far, and the story seems to be pretty obvious as to how this season will unfold. But we're going to be discussing the action, all the little nuances, all the interesting bits of information, and a controversial potential penalty for Fernando Alonso. Shall we start as we did last week with the team bottom of the constructors? The same team are bottom of the constructors. The way we like to do this, we go for a team, we look at their weekend in a whole, and at the end we'll sort of summarise a few points if we feel anything is hasn't been discussed throughout.
I mean, as a McLaren fan, because we're starting with McLaren.
We are indeed.
It was a very mixed bag of a weekend. Saturday, it was a success. Piastri into Q3.
Norris 19th.
Yeah, forget about that. But Piastri in Q3, very strong qualifying performance from him. P8 on the grid. I thought, do you know what? There's a chance for a decent result here. Even if it wasn't points, could be like a P12. I'd have taken a P12.
Yeah, he seemed to have some decent one-lap pace. Unfortunately, that did not result in anything. Piastri collided with Pierre Gasly on lap 1.
Broke his wing, and then Lando ran over that Piastri broken wing and broke his wing. So they both broke their wing on that one.
And ended up down the order. But do you think Piastri was too cautious into turn 1 and 2? And
I understand it, though, because I would have. I was thinking, oh my god, I'm in P8, I just don't want to crash.
Yeah, but I think his over-cautious nature, his tentative nature actually meant that he was more of a victim. Like, he put himself in a position where he could get hit into because he wasn't aggressive enough. He didn't assert himself on other cars. Instead, he got pushed to the side and eventually
but
his wing got shoved off.
Gasly didn't even hit him, did he?
No, well, obviously not, but he put himself in the position on the outside there where Gasly could hit him. There was enough room for Gasly.
I see your point. It was just a depressing race again. And then since that one damaged, didn't see him.
It doesn't seem to be a lack of pace, but I don't think the McLaren's all that quick.
I thought when the safety car came out, I thought, okay, everyone's back together, let's push on. Nothing happened. Stayed 16, 17.
Eventually the gap opened up more and more, and I think they ended up 20 seconds off the points.
And I guess the other thing to talk about really is obviously the team told Lando to not fight Piastri, which is interesting. But then Piastri then went on to overtake Sargent, whereas Lando sat behind him for 5 laps. So is there a question of who is the quicker driver? Piastri got to Q3. Piastri managed to make the move that Norris couldn't.
Yeah. I don't think Piastri's a better driver than Lando Norris.
Oh, definitely.
Let me clear that up. But he did have a good race in Saudi, but I think Norris got unlucky in qualifying.
Questions in a lot of areas for McLaren, they all need to be answered very soon.
But Piastri did get quite fortunate. I think that we have to make that clear in qualifying, because there's no way that car should be up in P8.
But even
on the grid, obviously, there was penalties for there was penalties for Charles, and obviously Max was knocked out in Q2. That helped, but he took advantage of that, so I think that needs to be commended. A good weekend for Piastri. Ultimately, it wasn't his fault. He did not finish the race. McLaren, though, will still feel annoyed. Well, sorry, didn't finish in the points. 15th isn't where McLaren really want to be.
No. Really?
I don't know what's going on with McLaren so far. Nothing seems to be going their way. And I don't know whether it's self-inflicted issues, which very much Bahrain was, but this round feels a lot more.
I look at it and go, if Piastri doesn't break his wing, does he stay in that points position?
Potentially. Probably not. I don't think he would have, but he would have been in and around that.
He would have been 15th.
He could have got a point.
Yeah.
Because that was quite close there, but yeah, overall not a terrible weekend for McLaren in terms of, well, not a terrible performance, but the result doesn't.
It was better.
The result leaves a lot to be desired. Next team then, it's Alpha Tauri, right?
Unlucky.
They could have definitely got a point. They qualified
unlucky.
P18 with Nick de Vries, first time around the circuit. Understandable.
And also he didn't get any running in Friday practice. Sorry, in practice 3.
Yeah, practice 3.
Yeah, they had problems in practice.
People have been saying that de Vries is really struggling to adapt to Formula 1, and I kind of agree to a certain extent, but I don't agree fully because he was only 3/10 off his teammate who is into his third Formula 1 season, right?
Yeah.
So I don't think De Vries is massively struggling. Of course, in the race, his pace wasn't the same as Yuki's, but
Where did he come in? 14th?
he finished up 14th, Nick De Vries.
It's not awful from PSG.
Gain of 4 positions. Of course, you've got to bear in mind that Albon and Stroll retired, so overall a gain of 2. When you consider that one of the McLarens was ahead of him and crashed, that suddenly becomes a move made.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, he stayed out of trouble around a track that's very difficult to. He's a rookie, never driven the track before. I would have expected potentially him to hit a wall. Instead, both other rookies were involved in incidents, whereas Piastri stayed out of trouble. Whereas De Vries, stayed out of trouble.
I think on Tsunoda's side, the garage took advantage of the Saturday qualifying wasn't really anywhere, but on the Sunday,
16th wasn't really.
Yeah. But on the Sunday, took advantage of the safety car and just missed out on the points in the last couple of laps.
Yeah, I think they'll be annoyed by that because I think they had the measure of Haas this weekend and they've lost out on a point.
He was clinging on to that P10 for the last 15 laps and eventually Magnussen got him.
Yeah, I do think the DRS might be a little overpowered at Saudi. I mean, we saw the way certain drivers were cutting through the grid.
McLaren, not a great weekend, but better than last time out.
Yeah, AlphaTauri though, I feel that they're sort of nailed on to be last in the championship.
Yeah.
They should have got a point, so they didn't.
McLaren have shown potential of backing their ideas up.
Yeah, Williams look a little better. But AlphaTauri, I think they're in a real tough spot.
Yeah.
Up next then, is it Williams or Haas?
It's Williams. We'll go Williams, yeah.
Okay.
I really, again, it's a very mixed weekend because...
If we look at qualifying, a double Q1 knockout.
Yeah, Sargent. But equally, I think Sargent got robbed.
Back to being that bottom of the pile.
His first lap, though, would have got you through to Q2, and they disqualified because he crossed the pit entry line as he finished his lap.
Yeah, but he did cross that line. That is something you can't do.
And he did spin.
I have no idea what he was doing over there. You exit the corner on the outside. Why on earth are you then cutting to the left?
You do. You always tuck to the wall, don't you?
Yeah, but you tuck out wide right, not cut in. That made no sense.
I swear you do. Oh, okay.
As to how he's crossed that line, but
yeah, and then onto the Sunday. I mean, Sargent did well. He got up some positions.
Yeah, he got up some.
Albon,
not a lot. Albon obviously had to retire due to some sort of braking issue. It seemed to be, though. He had to slow the car down towards the end. I think that was just so he could actually bring the car to a stop. But yeah,
it did kind of ruin Sargent. That's the thing. I think both of them, because Sargent was behind Albon. When Albon had his problem, he held him up, and then Sargent ended up out of DRS because they were in 13th, 14th. They were on the cusp of picking up some points, and then Albon's car went.
I don't think the Williams had the pace for points this weekend.
No, but they could have held on to their 13, 14, definitely.
Yeah, maybe so. I don't think though they had much more.
I think especially with both of them there, because if not, Sargent would have backed.
Maybe McLaren wouldn't have caught up. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Not a great weekend overall for Williams.
No, 16th and 19th in the end. Albon not finishing.
Yeah, no, not great.
It does feel like maybe Williams just had a one-off performance in Bahrain. I'll be interested to see how they got on in Australia.
Yeah, but equally, they showed glimpses of pace around here, but just overall struggle.
My biggest fear for Williams is once you take McLaren out of the equation, because you'd imagine they'll find performance at some point this year. And once you take out reliability, which has been a massive issue for a lot of teams, and that's what sort of Stroll have to retire. And I don't really know what happened to Bottas, who's complaining on the radio and they put some softs on and stuff. But once those sort of issues are out of the way, are Williams back where they started? Are they the bottom of the
I don't know.
barrel? Well, I don't see anyone who's slower. Maybe Haas just had a good weekend. Maybe AlphaTauri just had a good weekend. But
should we talk about a good weekend for Haas?
Yeah, sure. I mean, Haas, did they pick up points in Bahrain?
No, they didn't.
They did not. So they're on one. Why are they ahead of Williams then? Oh, because Hülkenberg got P12.
No, they're both on. I think it's just alphabetical order, to be honest.
No, it'd be highest finish for the second driver. And Sargent got 13th in Bahrain, and Hülkenberg P12. So overall, really strong pace for Haas. A lot stronger than they looked last weekend. Hülkenberg
through to Q3, didn't he?
Nope, finished P11, but obviously was pushed up to P10 thanks to Charles Leclerc's penalty. Very unfortunate to not beat Piastri's lap time. I think it was very tight between the two of them. It was Hülkenberg set at 1:29.4 and Piastri set at 1:29.3, so just 6/10. No, 800.
I say 6/10. Bloody hell!
Just horrendous maths there
from Piastri.
8 hundredths between the two, so unlucky not to get to Q3.
I think Haas will take it, to be honest. One driver
of course.
In the points, one on the cusp.
And then obviously Magnussen P13. Yes, of course, they were helped out by problems such as Sergio not actually setting a lap time, such as Albon. Albon didn't have any issues, did he? But Norris was all over the place. But they've got to take advantage of that. And of course, Verstappen.
And then they went and improved their Q2. They improved their quality positions into points playing positions in the race.
Yeah, well, obviously, grid positions, they had a 10-12 and they finished in a 10-12. But the fact they finished where they started, it's exactly what Haas need.
Exactly.
So I think I'll be quite pleased with that. Kevin Magnussen bringing home that point. Obviously, K-Mag was the one that helped out massively at the start of last season, bringing home quite a few points for them.
You got P5 in the first race.
Very promising signs. I think Haas... Yeah. A lot of people expected them to be able to fight in the midfield. I don't know if they're capable of that.
I think they'll be very hit and miss. I think one weekend they might be on the pot, they might be on money, the next weekend they might be further back.
But I think Alfa Romeo are below Haas right now. And I think Williams are, I think AlphaTauri are, and I think potentially McLaren.
That's a good way to bring on to Alfa Romeo, who are up next. Was Bahrain a one-off for Bottas?
Well, evidently so. We know Valtteri Bottas loves Bahrain. He won there a lot when he was driving the Mercedes.
I mean, it was just crap from start to finish, really, wasn't it?
I don't really know what happened with Bottas. I feel like everyone brushed over that. The broadcast just went, oh, well, Bottas has said on the radio. Lovely, jubbly. And now let's not talk about him for the rest. But
I don't know why they put on softs.
He pitted, they went for softs. I thought maybe they're doing another fastest lap attempt, but they didn't do a quick lap.
What did they do in quali?
It was a 12:14, so not horrendous, considering they're quite close to Haas there, to end up finishing in P13 and P18.
Saying there was 2 DNFs in the race, and they
still lost
dropped,
ground.
Few positions each.
Of course, they were both ahead of Max, so you'd expect them to drop a position, but
Obviously, then Stroll retired.
Zhou losing 1, Bottas losing 4. Bottas
seemed
seemed to have some mechanical issues.
Yeah, it wasn't a great race all round for.
No, some real struggles there. I feel like Alfa Romeo don't have pace.
No,
quite evidently. So, I wouldn't. I don't know what to think. I don't really know what to think of Alfa Romeo. I feel like they are definitely below Haas at the moment.
It'll be interesting rounds in Australia because we know Bottas is strong around the Melbourne circuit.
Yes, potentially another
concern. They're very very quick.
Exactly, but enough 8th place finishes for Bottas this year will see Alfa Romeo into a good position. So far it looks like the points won't be shared out as much as they were last year. Last year, most of the bottom half of the grid got a decent amount of points.
Yeah.
This year, I mean, are Red Bull going to claim all the points? Probably. So the point distribution seems to be a lot lower. But it'll be interesting how the season pans out. Of course, we've got 19 more rounds. The season's more than that. 20 more rounds. The season's certainly not over. But it does seem like there's not going to be many points up for grabs based off this so far. But hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully we see loads of races with a diverse group of people scoring the points.
Next up, Alpine. Decent
very,
weekend,
very
really.
promising.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people were worried about Alpine following their issues in Bahrain. Obviously, they didn't qualify too well in Bahrain. And then, of course, Ocon took about 9 years in penalties. He served a very long sentence. You'd think he'd be done for murder. But he wasn't. He was done for technical, grid infringements and pit stop infringements. We've seen similar problems today, which we'll get on to when we get to Aston Martin. But
it was a bounce back from Alpine. I mean, they're the quickest cars apart from Ferraris, Mercs, Astons and Red Bulls.
Yeah, so of course qualifying, they did quite well. Both got through to Q3. Esteban Ocon P7, Pierre Gasly P10. I think that's exactly where they want to be.
A few opening laps had a 5.7 at one point.
And he outqualified Lewis. I don't think the Alpines will be fighting with the Mercedes too much this season, but if they can every now and then, they can capitalise on problems for other teams. I think that's exactly where they want to be. And 8-9 today, that's overall, big points for Alpine.
Really solid weekend.
I think considering there's no McLaren in there, they have to take charge of the midfield. The problem is now, the midfield can only fight for 2 points playing positions because we've got 4 teams fighting for the top 8. So it does sort of leave... I think that's why the bottom teams are so short of points, because you've got 4 teams that seem to be guaranteed points every week. The field spread is closer this year, seemingly, after, if you discount Red Bull. But it seems Aston, Mercedes, Ferrari just have an edge on everyone else. So I do fear that we're not going to see many points handed out. Alpine, though, a huge points haul this weekend over the teams below them. So I think they'll be very pleased with the fruits of their labour.
Yeah. Team who won't be, Ferrari.
Yeah, Ferrari on...
Tough weekend.
Again, another really difficult weekend. Of course, we knew Charles Leclerc would be taking 10 places heading into it.
Already put you on the back foot.
Of course, but when you see then Max Verstappen be behind him on the grid, and still he ends up, 40 seconds up the road?
Yeah.
That is just insane. The fact that Sainz started 4th and ended up 30 seconds behind Max.
Yeah.
It's not good for Ferrari. There's clearly a lack of pace there.
Sainz starting P4, right? You know, they'd have thought a podium was on the cards today for Ferrari.
Yeah.
Nothing came to them in the race. When the switch came onto the hards, they fell back. You know, they were miles off the pace of the top 5, but they were just quick enough for the drivers below them. They kind of sat at 6-7. You know, Leclerc said that it was just really really bad, and he didn't really know what to do. Just stuck in P7.
Yeah, Carlos Sainz P6, Charles Leclerc P7. It's not where Ferrari want to be, considering obviously they qualified 2nd and 5th, which then turned into 4th and 12th on the grid. So it's not ideal for Ferrari. The problem lies for Ferrari now is, what are they fighting for this year? They've got drivers who want to be fighting for world championships,
but it's not there.
They're nowhere near being able to do that. Is there a possibility that Charles Leclerc leaves it?
Maybe, but I look at they're already miles off Red Bull, and they're already a step down from Aston and Merc at this point in the championship.
Yeah, and I thought that Mercedes were in a lot of trouble. Especially after Bahrain, they looked to be in a really poor position. They got big points because of Ferrari. And we will segue into Mercedes indeed. But the fact that Ferrari now have been outperformed 2 consecutive weekends by Mercedes, when it looks like they've got more pace. If you look at qualifying, 2nd and 5th compared to 4th and 8th, why are the drivers qualifying 2nd and 5th behind them? I just don't get that.
Mercedes had that much pace today. They had a bit of an inter-team squabble as well. I'm very surprised that Ferrari were nowhere near them.
Yeah, I just don't know. Maybe the race pace isn't there in the current Ferrari, but
yeah, maybe.
Yeah, it's bizarre to see a team that was so good last season, and that through the winter we heard positive signs. It seemed like Ferrari would still be 2nd, maybe able to challenge Red Bull. We certainly didn't think that Aston Martin would be flying up towards the grids, but that has thrown a spanner in the works, undoubtedly. But I still feel Ferrari should be making more of the package they've got. Whether they can or whether they don't, I don't know. But it's going to be interesting to see how that pans out. They need to be bringing home more points at Ferrari. Mercedes, I don't think Toto's going to be buzzing with a 4-5, but considering last week, I think they'll take it.
I think they're going to take it. Because, I mean, a bit of it, starting something to brew between Russell and Hamilton there. Russell, using any excuse he can to try and stay ahead of Hamilton, and in the end he responded by driving quicker than him. After being asked to let him through. Yeah,
I just feel Russell wants to assert himself as the team leader.
Yeah.
I think he wants to make Mercedes...
He's seen an opportunity.
Yeah, because Hamilton will be looking for any way out right now.
Yeah.
And if Hamilton can get a move to Ferrari, which probably isn't the best move in actual fact. The problem is now, if you are Lewis Hamilton or if you are Charles Leclerc, where do you go?
Yeah.
Because Mercedes and Ferrari, a switch there isn't really an attractive proposition.
It's only a gain to us.
And Red Bull, why would they do that? Max Verstappen's never going to agree to them dropping Perez for someone that can challenge him for the title.
And Aston
though Perez could, and we'll get onto that
nailed
soon.
On for at least 2 years.
And Alonso, you're not going to bin while he's performing well. No. And Lance Stroll's got a lifetime contract, so it really does create an interesting dynamic where actually the grid is sort of stuck. A lot of drivers in big teams are stuck. If Lewis wants to compete in Formula 1 next season at the highest level, he's either got to gamble on Ferrari pulling something out of the bag or stay with Mercedes and see what happens there. But either way, it's not looking great for Lewis Hamilton. 8th in quali, up to 5th in the race. I think it's not a bad result, but when Max Verstappen starts P15 and you start 8 and you end up...
I mean, he pulled his pants down on the straight.
And you end up 25 seconds... behind him, he's gonna feel frustrated. Considering just 2 years ago, around the same circuit, they had that monumental scrap. They were neck and neck, side by side. They were competitors, and now Verstappen looks his superior by quite a margin.
From a Mercedes point of view, not a great weekend, but you'll take it. It's part of the building blocks of getting back to the top.
Yeah.
Only behind Alonso and the Red Bulls, you'll take it.
Indeed, and I think that helped out there by Lance Stroll not being able to finish the race. I feel like he would have either split the Mercedes or got P4, which could have helped Ferrari massively if there was a battle there between Lance Stroll and the Mercs.
Aston, it looks like a good weekend at the moment, but who knows where it's going. Obviously, Lance Stroll, mechanical issues.
That's the first sign of a crack in Aston's armour. We saw on the first day of testing, Felipe Drugovich, when he went out, had that mechanical failure. But since then, flawless. No reliability issues for Aston Martin. I think that's a massive bonus considering every other team, even Red Bull, have had their issues. But in the race, Lance Stroll could not complete it. 3rd and 6th in qualifying. Incredibly solid result there. Yeah. Obviously, no Max Verstappen up there, but they made the best of that situation. They took advantage of that. They both out-qualified Alonso out-qualified Carlos Sainz. Stroll out-qualified Hamilton.
That pushed into a second and a 5th on the
sensational starting grid, of course.
And then obviously both of them off the lights. Brilliant start. Stroll went around the outside of Sainz. Alonso took the lead.
Alonso got up the inside of Perez, but being on the starting grid, he was too far to the inside, and that actually is what cost him in the end. 5-second penalty. Without that, do you think he could have held off Max for longer?
No.
No?
No, Max would have got him either way.
He would have, but would he have held him off for longer?
Maybe an extra 5 laps. Wouldn't have held him off. Max would have just taken another couple of laps to get to him.
Yeah. To be fair, though, under safety car didn't really make a difference. He still came out in the same place. So, maybe there's no justification for that point. But Fernando Alonso, I don't really understand the grid positioning. With Ocon's last week, I could understand why it seemed he couldn't see his grid box. That was his issue. Yeah. And then obviously they did work on the car while he was serving his 5-second penalty, which is just brain dead. Same thing has happened here. So Fernando Alonso, it's believed the rear axle, I think I've got that terminology correct. Rear jack, sorry. Yeah. Rear jack was touching the car while he was serving that penalty, meaning he'll probably be handed a 10-second time penalty.
Which
demotes him down to 5th.
George Russell a podium.
And Mercedes will be buzzing for that. Yeah. And Aston will be fuming because Aston should have 2 third places, consecutive third place finishes. And, through their own fault, through their own team individual making a mistake, that could cost them a lot of points. Has Alonso been ducked now? Okay. Yeah, we weren't sure. We didn't see any official stuff before we started recording. We wanted to get this out. We wanted to get on with recording this before, as quickly as possible, after the race. And now Fernando Alonso has been penalised. 10-second penalty.
Well, Merck now got a podium.
So Fernando Alonso, no podium today then. So, that leaves the podium as Sergio Perez on top, Verstappen 2nd and George Russell 3rd. And I think that's a good chance to get into that Red Bull weekend then.
What a weekend. Well, not what a weekend.
No.
But no matter what happens, they somehow still got there. Everything
that could have gone wrong.
Went wrong.
Really did go wrong, but they still came away with the maximum points. I think that's the issue now.
Oh, Max, what did there.
Thank you. But Max Verstappen didn't get his race win, but he still drove superbly. Max obviously couldn't compete in qualifying 3. He was knocked out in Q2 due to a mechanical failure, but still cut through on race day. He was helped up by a safety car, obviously, but I think he would have ended up 2nd regardless of that. So no contributing factor.
That big fight and stop him.
I don't think he could. The way that he was going past drivers,
Max, he took him out, which is George Russell territory.
It's more Lewis Hamilton.
What a drive from Max. But also Checo. Took pole for back-to-back years in Saudi. Lost the lead. Did well to win it back. And then from there, he was in cruise control. There was a little bit of, on the little bit of chat on the radio about maybe Verstappen Max had a little bit of a problem developing, and then they're both asking about the fastest lap. They're both asking about who's doing what lap time.
Is there a potential that Perez is starting to feel that maybe the championship's coming to him?
Definitely.
There's only a point between them. We go to Australia next. Obviously, Max didn't finish the race last year.
Does that become a big problem for Red Bull? If they do when they both realise they're in a title fight, does that become a problem?
It very much depends on how long this lasts. if they're still this tight, trading wins,
10 races
heading into, let's say, Austria, round 10, obviously their home Grand Prix, I think it could create a bit of a nasty dynamic. But if Max goes on to win the next 8, and we're coming out of Austria going, well, Max has dominated the championship so far, then I think it's a different story.
I don't think it'll get ugly.
I don't think it's in Perez's nature. But then equally, he has got a history with Esteban Ocon, of course. Verstappen also has history, not with teammates, but with Esteban Ocon. Every driver on the grid has issues with Esteban Ocon, but yeah.
Is that a problem with Max's? You look at every single I mean, you look at how close he was to Hamilton, that got over the top.
But that's a one-off situation. We've never seen that.
Yeah, would Red Bull intervene if it did get too nasty? Would they?
How can they?
I don't not ban one of them.
Exactly. How can they? Unless they're going to drop Perez mid-season for fighting too hard.
They wouldn't do that.
Of course.
Yeah.
That would be insane if they did
that. That could be a problem developing, but I think looking at this weekend, brilliant 1-2.
The only way Red Bull can threaten Perez is if they say you will not have a seat next season if you continue to fight Max. The problem for Red Bull is how on earth do you fit that seat?
But also, would Perez go, right, do I want to risk losing my Red Bull season? Would he then just put all his eggs in winning the championship and risk losing his Red Bull seat at the end of the season? Would he just go for that F1 World Championship?
I don't think Perez would risk his job for a World Championship.
I think he could walk into any other team.
No.
Not any other. But you're telling me if he goes to Alfa Romeo at the end of the season and goes, I want to race Bottas, they're going to say no.
Potentially. Depends on whether they sign Bottas to a new contract.
What, Haas?
I think Haas would be happy with any drive, but equally both their both their drivers are on till 2024. Or they've both got 1 year. I can't remember.
A hypothetical situation.
I don't think Perez walks into many teams, but he would probably find a seat.
I guess is it time to
especially if he's reigning world champion.
W's and L's of the weekend.
Yeah, driver. We'll start with L's. Team L. I don't really know. There's a lot to give it to. I will probably say Ferrari. I feel that
they struggled.
Taking what?
It wasn't great.
14 points.
Great. Yeah.
From this weekend, where they qualified in second and fifth. Obviously, they did have a penalty for Charles. It's just not really ideal.
Just to be a bit different, I'll go out for Romeo. Both dropped.
Yeah.
Qualified pretty decently near the upper echelon.
I mean, the obvious answer is McLaren, but
that's just get boring.
We did that last week.
Yeah.
With the driver out, it's sort of subjective. If you go by which team performed the worst this weekend, I don't know if any did. Did any? There was no massive issues. No team made a horrible strategy call. No team, pitted and put the wrong tyres on, or didn't put the tyres on, or put the wing on upside down. So,
what teams have done that?
Probably
Ferrari at some point.
Ferrari. What happens if we put the wing on upside down? Nothing. What did you think was going to happen? And then driver L.
Valtteri Bottas.
Yeah.
What happened?
I don't think it's his fault.
Well, why did he put on the softs and just showed no pace?
I don't think that was him. I think the car was knackered.
I think he was rubbish, to be honest. I
think driver will be Oscar Piastri.
Really?
You qualified P8? You're P8 on the grid?
On my other one with Lando Norris.
He was outperformed by a teammate who had a crash.
And how you start P19, put on the softs, and then you finish.
Up no ground. Well, he got damaged, didn't he, of course?
But, but come on.
They did well to recover from that, actually, because he was 20 seconds behind everyone.
I'm going to go Bottas.
Both. I think Piastri and I don't think you could say Bottas. Bottas had mechanical issues.
I'm going to say Bottas.
That's like going Stroll, mate. He was terrible. The way he didn't finish the race.
I'm going Bottas.
You're a waffle merchant. Piastri for me. I think he demonstrated a little bit of naivety and a little bit of a lack of racecraft, which is common amongst rookies to have that little bit of naivety, a little bit of caution. I think that cost him today because he definitely could have brought home points for McLaren, considering the drivers that weren't up there and considering the drivers that would end up going down the order. But yeah, that's just a personal opinion. I'm sure people out there will be going, mate, that's disgraceful. Piastri was sensational to even qualify that high, but I think the fact he didn't finish on that promise.
Yeah, all right. You're going to drive around again to a bloke who qualified 8th. Absolute shitbox.
Yeah, but if Charles qualified on pole and then smashed it in a wall, Yeah, I would be putting him as L.
Let's move on.
All right, Team W of the weekend, just that anyone other than Red Bull.
Alpine.
What? You cannot give it to Alpine over Red Bull. You are a waffle merchant.
It's not. I'm not. No, but you can't put. If we're talking W in terms of their season so far, Alpine, massive win for them today. Both drivers in the points. Both drivers qualified in the top 10. That's a brilliant.
I agree they had a very good weekend, but I just can't see past Red Bull.
Yeah, well, it'll get boring if we put Red Bull every week. Well, they got 1, 2.
No, it's all right. Next 1 week, something different's gonna happen.
All right.
Hopefully.
Well,
I'm not too confident.
I think similarly to construct W, I think driver W is very much clear.
Wow. If you're about to say, Esteban Ocon, I'm going to slap you.
Perez drove a good race.
Indeed.
But you cannot look at a man who's gone from 15th to 2nd.
Oh, you definitely can. I love Max Verstappen, but Sergio Perez deserves this weekend. He didn't put a foot wrong.
Sorry, but Max quite literally couldn't have done any better because his car failed him. He then came from 15th to 2nd.
I just feel if I'm going to give it to Max every weekend.
I'll give it to Verstappen, you give it to Perez. Job done.
Well, job done. What's that supposed to mean? I don't know. Anyway, another brilliant round of Formula 1, gutting that George Russell's finished on the podium.
Yeah, that's just ruined the day, to be honest.
It can't all be perfect. I feel for Alonso. That was his 100th Formula 1 podium and it's been taken away from him due to that penalty.
Yeah.
Not his fault. Whoever that rear jack man is, I think Lawrence Stroll's going to have your head on a stick. Barring that, though,
head on a jack.
If we all survive, hopefully that guy doesn't have his head on a stick or a jack. We'll survive. We'll be back for Australia in 2 weeks' time. Just a heads up, we will be doing a preview for that one, but no review. Unfortunately, we are not around to do a review of that, but we will be doing a preview and we will have other content going out in and around the time. And of course, this Friday, I think we're going to do an F2 video. We haven't spoken about F2 this season yet, but after 2 rounds, it seems fitting we should discuss the first 2 rounds. Probably. And I know someone in the comments the other day asked us to do some more F2 content, so I think that is that's a good idea to do some of that. So yeah, we are the people's channel. We do what the comment section asks for, and if there's anything you want us to discuss about the world of Formula 1, get it involved in the comments below. Give your thoughts on the racing and all of that, and the Alonso penalty. Do you think it was fair? It was awarded a penalty. In the codes, yeah, but not ethically, I don't know. If you think it was unjustified, feel free to air that.
Just because it was given to George Russell.
I think there's that.
He was given to
put that in the sporting regulations. But yeah, that is all from this weekend. If you have enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you're new. We are on the road to 1K this year. You never know what's possible. So far on 134. I mean, I'll be happy with 200, 300, 400, 500.
Yeah,
if we could hit 1,000 subs this year, that's sort of a dream. But yeah,
we'll talk about Formula 4.
We'll vlog a Formula 4 race if we get 10k. But throw that out.
Please don't hate us 10k. I don't want to go vlog a Formula 4 race.
That is all for us today. Then thank you all very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.